Hey everyone, and welcome back to Sakura Zoo. Today it's all about the Japanese macaque with this really cool multi-tiered, multi-pool of water habitat, which is a really weird thing to say, but we're here to see how this all came together. And we're going to start off with our multi-tier water feature. This is actually going to be the first water feature. You're going to see something else pop up a little bit later, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. But this took a little bit to kind of figure out. Originally, I'd gone with some higher water tiers or water features, but realized that the guests just wouldn't be able to see it. And I really want to make sure that we're going to take in a lot of elevation and rock work with this particular habitat. So please bear with me as you see a ton of faux rock being placed just about everywhere. But I gotta say, this habitat was a fun experience, really focusing on creating this water world habitat that the Japanese macaques can go and explore. Very similar to what you see in real life, or all those photos of, the Japanese macaque hanging out in a hot water pool and then just, the steam coming up around it. So that was really the inspiration for this particular build. And this, I'm just really happy that it came together. Now, if you were in the Discord, you would have seen my paper drawing of how this was all coming together, and I will say we're pretty true to the original intent behind this. The idea overall is to have a ton of elevated areas for our Japanese macaques to go and explore. So as a guest, when you're looking in, you're going to see them high, you're going to see them low, and you're just going to see them just about everywhere. But with the majority of the base rock work placed down, and I realize it's weird saying base rock work, but there's still so much more that has to happen here. I figured it was time for us to kind of outline where the barrier is going to go. Again, we're utilizing the same barrier, trying to keep with the theme of this entire area, because again, it is the mountains of Asia. And speaking of the mountains of Asia, we only have one more habitat to go after this. But I'm also feeling like we need to put in some support facilities, not for our staff, but rather for our guests. So stay tuned for some updates about that as well. Now, with the majority of work done, I did realize there was one thing I forgot, which was how was I going to go about and make sure that the Japanese macaques are not going to escape? So I just borrowed that concrete post that I created for our Amur leopards, brought them over here, and it worked really well. Although I did take it off of the white and made it a little bit darker color, kind of matching the stone. Now, normally at this stage of the video, it's all about foliage work. This is like a tried and true method. But I'm calling this the oops-a-daisy phase, because the majority of the work you're going to see is just not sticking around. And I will admit, I struggled significantly at this stage of this build. But the reason why I'm keeping it here is so that everybody who can see, especially for all those new players out there, that it's okay. Your first attempt at a build may not work out really well, and that's totally cool. It's totally normal. Sometimes you just need to delete it and start again. You also may have seen me try to, once again, add in some caribou moss. Still can't figure out where to place this in the game, and I still don't know if I'm ever going to have a chance to use it. So you can see the end product, and it's looking pretty rough around the edges, and I just wasn't really happy with it. So I decided to focus on some other portions of this particular build. And one of the things I really wanted to challenge myself to do was to create this really cool looking barrier, this net barrier that would go over the top of the habitat. The design behind it is to prevent any of our Japanese macaques from hopping over the glass and things like that. And I struggled really hard to create this, and I think that my skill set is just not quite there yet to make it happen. So instead, I just opted to increase the glass an additional few meters higher and called it a day. Also, tried and true method, I took some mulch, placed it between all of our hedgerows and the rest of the glass pieces. This just helps to kind of blend in all that grass tone, gives it a little bit of a cleaner look as well. And again, those hedgerows, love how they work out, and pretty sure I've used this in almost every single habitat in Sakura Zoo. So with our oops-a-daisy phase out of the way, I turned to the rest of the community and kind of asked for some help and some ideas on how I can make this habitat pop just a little bit more. And I got tons of feedback, and again, this is why the entire Planet Zoo community is just absolutely fantastic. And one of the top things of feedback that somebody provided me was maybe adding in an additional pool of water at the very front of our habitat. And this actually is a fantastic idea, and I can't believe I didn't think of it as well. So I decided to go back through and add in a little bit more of a man-made pool of water. And you can kind of see how I did this. I took all of the faux rocks, specifically the square archways, placed it, rotated it around a little bit, and picked some of the square blocks and added it on top. Just kind of layered it all the way around. I created one piece and then just copied it all the way along. And while it does look a tad generic and repetitive, it does add so much more to this particular habitat. And thankfully, also means from a foliage perspective, we don't need to do a whole lot. And I think that's why it's important that it's okay to not like the first attempt at a build. Sometimes your second, third, or even fourth attempt is going to be that much better. It's also finally time for us to finally work on all of our foliage, and we're actually going to keep the majority of this foliage in place. Tons of different bushes are going to go in, but the majority of the time we're focusing on the correct biome and continent for our Japanese macaques, which in this case is taiga, temperate, and in Asia, of course. A lot of tried and true techniques that you've seen me kind of plays around here quite a bit, but I gotta say these Scots pines are fantastic, and having that one just poke out over top of some of the pools of water really kind of sealed the deal. Now, when you think about Japanese macaques, you immediately think about all of them hanging out in hot springs in the winter weather. And while right now it's not winter, we definitely can do a little bit of a hot spring effect. It's super easy as well, just 2 steps. Number 1, you're going to adjust the color of your water. I made it a little bit lighter blue and I toned down the transparency. Number 2, I maxed out the mist effect. And it gives you that amazing steam look, so it really does look like we're staring into some hot springs. It's a perfect place for some Japanese macaques, and when you add snow to this entire effect, it just adds so much more to the overall build. Now, you might have missed it. I once again tried to add in some of that caribou moss. Again, I'm still struggling. I probably will never find a home for this. But our foliage is really starting to come together. Not too many climbing areas just yet, and you're gonna see we're gonna do a final pass at the end of the video, and we're gonna really make the exterior pop a little bit more. But right now, it's all about color, and you can see that I also use some of the leaf litter, really just to add a splash of orange to this overall build. We were looking rather dull with a lot of gray and green, so adding in that orange leaf litter really made everything pop. Now, before we go any further in this build, I think it's the perfect time for us to go and step back and take a look at our previous build, which was for the Arctic foxes. Now, for those who remember, we always love to get feedback from the community and to have you guys leave your mark on our builds. So I want to say thank you to DocDoc4500 for the fantastic name suggestion of Nectarine. So we have one name, so I'm going to go with that same theme, and we're going to call the other one Clementine. So we have Nectarine and Clementine. I'm really happy to welcome them to our zoo. But it's not just about the Arctic foxes today. Our Japanese macaques definitely need some names, and we have a small colony. We only have 8, but those are a ton of names that we need. So this is your opportunity to leave your mark on Sakura Zoo as well. So in the comments below, make sure you leave some name suggestions. And you don't have to come up with 8. If you want to come up with a theme in a few of them, you are more than welcome to do so. And I can't wait to see some of your suggestions in the comments. Now, getting back to our Japanese macaque habitat, it is time for us to start working on our interior backstage area, and there's nothing too fancy. You're going to see this kind of coming together, following a very similar method, which is some painted brick, adding in some climbing material, and then just really kind of making this look a little bit more like a monkey habitat. And I'm taking a lot of inspiration from my time at Toronto Zoo, because I actually had the opportunity to see into one of their den areas, and this is really what kind of inspired this. But I think now is the perfect time to remind everybody that if you like what you're seeing in Sakura Zoo, think about subscribing. It definitely helps me, lets the channel grow, lets me know I'm doing a good job, and on top of that, hit that like button, because that is also a really easy way for you to help this video reach out to some more people. On top of that, I do want to take a moment to just wish everybody a fantastic New Year's. This video should be coming out right before the New Year's, so this might be the last you hear from me until the year 2025, which is weird saying, but it's just around the corner. So I just want to say thank you so much for all of your support and everybody who helped out this year in Planet Zoo and in this channel. I really don't think I could have ever achieved this without your support, and I just want to say thank you so much to everybody. Now, speaking of leaving your mark on Sakura Zoo, there is one thing that I haven't announced, and this is going to be the first time I'm going to announce it, but there is another way for you to leave your mark on Sakura Zoo. I've always shared that the goal for me was to create this really cool, realistic zoo, and it's not just about the zoo, it's also about the environment and the surrounding area. So, I'm coming to you guys for your help. I really need some buildings that will act as the skirt for the entire zoo. And I really want to have you guys build these buildings. So they can be Japanese style, they have to be Japanese style, but the idea behind it is you can make houses, you can make apartment blocks, anything like that. And then just all you have to do is share me the link to your build, and I will add it in. Your name is going to be placed on each of the buildings, so everybody will get the recognition that they deserve. And this is also your way of leading a mark on Sakura Zoo and showing how you have helped to develop something truly amazing. So if you really want to participate in this, all you have to do is keep an eye out for the community post. We'll announce this to everybody. But if you want to get a head start on it, you can actually head on over to our Discord. Just leave the link there for us as well, and I will be adding all of your builds, or as many as I can, into Sakura Zoo. So this is your opportunity to truly leave your mark on Sakura Zoo and this build forever. So thank you so much. I can't wait to see what you guys put together. Now, with our backstage finally out of the way, it's time for us to do one last pass over the exterior and the front of our habitat. And really, the goal is to add in a few more climbing apparatuses. So we're just adding in some logs just about anywhere. The idea is just to give them a few other ways to traverse all of this terrain. And it also adds a little bit more realism, I like to think, to this overall build. Now, off camera, I am going to go back through and add in quite a few steps. You can already see I've done some on the left-hand side there. But this is probably one of my crowning achievements for this entire build. I really I'm shocked that this actually worked out, because according to the game, it does not. But it worked out and you can't go wrong. So I placed down 3 faux rocks, the 2 smaller ones, 1 larger one that looked a little bit more realistic. And inside of those, I placed in the hot water tap. And the idea behind this was it was meant to really get the Japanese macaques to come and hang out in the water and under these flowing water tubes. And they kind of give you that idea that, again, these macaques are actually in a hot water spring. And it worked out fantastic. And at the very beginning of the video, you would have actually seen some of this happen. And I can't believe we were able to achieve this. Now, I did notice that the overall build was kind of looking a little bland. So I went in, added in a few more of the East Asian pieces, as well as some of these blocks. And it really helped to add a little bit more visual appearance to the overall build. I especially like adding the monkey into the hot spring as well. I thought it was super fitting. And the last thing, and this is actually the first time I've ever done this, I took some of these timber pieces, placed them into the wall a little bit, added a little bit of a splash of color, and pretty much ended the entire build. That was the best way to go about it. And that's it. That's all I have for this episode. I am going to show off some of the work that went into creating a little bit more of a skirt around the habitat. Because again, there's not too many habitats here in the mountains of Asia, but we are getting near the end. But I just want to say thank you so much for your joining me on this journey and seeing how this all came together. I can't wait to hear some of your feedback on maybe what I could have done differently, or maybe if this inspired you to build your own things as well. So I really hope it does. As always, thank you so much for your support, and stay tuned because you're going to see some cinematic shots. And I'm also going to add in some winter shots so we can actually see what the Japanese macaque habitat would look like with all the snow on the ground as well. Again, just want to say thank you so much for your support. And as always, ciao for now.